And we're back. Gamestars Clash Royale Season 2 is running full steam, packed with high-octane action, intricate strategy, and mountains of gold. Mix the elixirs and hop on your hog, Chief. Time to find out who will dominate the clans. Subscribe, join our stream, and witness brave heroes fighting in Gamestars Clash Royale Season 2. Ride on, piggy!
Hello everybody, welcome back to Season 2 of Gamestars League in Clash Royale, and we are in our Western European Regional Finals. We had a great day of action yesterday, best of fives all over the place. St. Belican and Sasa get to enjoy the spoils of their victories. They're going to sit back and watch the elimination bracket go head to head to head to head today. We have 4 matches coming your way. They're all best of fives, which means it's the first person to get to 3 wins, and I'm very excited to talk about it. Here in Gamestars League, we have a deck format that we're going to get to in just 1 second, but we have Majran and Inthril going up against one another to start the day off, then Game Freak TV and Omer, and then we have Kike Star and Ligan waiting in the wings to see who they'll be facing off with. All of these individuals have 1 life left to give. That's right, this is double elimination format, and all of the players we're seeing today have lost at least 1 of their sets. These were the most popular cards played yesterday. We saw a ton of Bandit and Dark Prince. Mother Witch was swinging victories back and forth with how quickly she can populate the map with those piggies and change that elixir lead from maybe yourself to your opponent. 6 cards can be repeated in each of the 3 pre-submitted decks from every individual, which means that 2 cards must be unique every single time that you come out. Any repeat of 7 or more cards will result in a disqualification in that said game. These are the decks that were the most popular, and one surprising thing that we saw yesterday was Goblin Drill. Look at that, 5% selection rate. These are the most popular 6 that we saw. Not a lot of wins out there. Not sure what it was about the drill. Maybe it's just because so many people are so sick of it. But instead of talking about the decks, let's go watch some of them in action. Here we go. Majra on top of your screen, Inthril at the bottom. Both of these guys struggled a little bit yesterday. They were able to pick up 1 win between the 2 of them. And we're going to start off with some drill. Cannon Cart, super popular yesterday as well. I mean, we were talking a little bit about how Cannon Cart has been so nice because that slow to movement speed allows for some adjustments to get some units right in front and make it that much more intimidating as it crosses the river. This time that Goblin Cage will come out and meet it at the bridge. Bomber, Cannon Cart, very popular here. Drill coming out early on, no surprise there. Majran yesterday faced off against St. Belican. That was a quick 0-3 set for him to start his day off. Maybe he's been able to shake off some of those nerves, come back out today and pick up a W here against Inthril, who was not able to take down Ligan CR. Inthril started that set off strong, but it was Ligan who came back to back to back. He was able to pull off the reverse sweep. Heroes on one side, Valkyrie on the other, going to make quick work of those Royal recruits. Not a lot of damage in. Fire Spirit will come down to add a little bit of pressure and try to bait out some elixir from his opponent, but Inthril does not bite. Back and reset to 10 here. Inthril able to check that he's down 1 elixir there. He gets the Cannon Cart down a hair later. In those moments when opponents just stare at each other in what feels like a stalemate for a moment, it's a really great time to reset and recalculate your opponent's elixir lead or your lead on them. Obviously, when you sit there and no one makes a move for a moment, if too much time goes by, then you know that they're just leaking elixir, but if it's just a little bit, then you know that they're waiting till they get to 10, reset, figure out their next assault. And here we go. Majran back on the offensive, sends in another Goblin Drill. Cannon Cart, great card to pick up the Goblin Drill, as you can see here. Not the best option in Inthril's deck. It's going to be a negative trade. He also has great responses like the Bomber and the Valkyrie. Bomber cycled in the left, Valkyrie cycled in the right, and then we see Royal Recruits in the back getting the AoE splash damage split up just a little bit is Inthril from Poland. Both these guys from Poland, as you can see with their flags there. Fireball in on the left side. Would have been nice to hold that fireball for a hair longer. Try to take off some of those shields, but We'll see how Inthril wants to respond. Inthril, yesterday, it felt like he was so in control of his set, and then it just started slipping through his fingers with some mistakes here and there, and before you knew it, Lygan had just been off into the races. Inthril finally gets the graveyard out. Waits till he gets to overtime. Smart there. Flying Machine goes down in the back. Skeleton's going to pile up and get a little bit of damage in. 1281 to 1431. Cycled in the back once again, and Inthril happy to just take that spell damage with the arrows. He can cycle those arrows every single time as long as he holds that fireball to take the Flying Machine off the board. He does have the option, or the luxury, I should say, to get on top of the Flying Machine with his Mega Minion as well, but there you go. Mega Minion out of cycle. Fireball up high. Flying Machine going to get this cannon cart off of its wheels and then get a little bit of damage on tower, unless Inthril decides to respond. Oh, Mega Minion turns. Time goes arrows down low, which will make it so that Royal Recruits can be placed up high. Fireball on top of the Bomber plus the Cage. Cannon Cart going to try to play double duty here in regards to defense. And Fireball value there. We'll see if Majran decides to take it. Does not. Big push here coming across the bridge. A lot of blue. Graveyard tanking for all of it. Fireball at the river. Nice fireball there, but Cannon Cart still on its legs. Bomber going to get a little splash damage in. One shot, 777. Fireball takes Flying Machine off the board. Graveyard's coming in hot and heavy now. Bomber not able to get that splash damage in, but a lot in, and we see Majran starting to laugh it off. We know that that's a bit of his tried and true technique when he's not happy about what he sees on the board. He saw a lot of the laughing king faces yesterday when playing against St. Belican. They had a very close first game, and then from there it was basically Belican all day against everyone that he played against. Belican, I believe, started off against Majran, took him out 3-0, and then he went on to face off against Lygan, and it was a 3-0 set as well. Belican untouched yesterday. Him and Sasa, as I said, enjoying the spoils of victory, sitting back today, watching the rest of the Western European Regional Finals going on. The top 4 players from this will move on to our international group stage, where over $30,000 is up for grabs. So make sure you are subscribed here on the channel. Turn on those notifications so you know every single time that we go live. An interesting first game there, you know, arrows. A lot of spell value came in, just kind of slow, reset, reorder, and a lot of pushes coming across the bridge with dual lane pressure. But unfortunately for Majran, his opponent had a lot of really great cards to deal with all of that splash damage. And when you talk about Cannon Cart, high DPS, a lot of health, and the fact that it has 2 lives, and then he could just cycle Valkyrie in the back in one lane, Bomber in the back in the other, and they would be able to help clean up that Goblin drill. Of course, Mega Minion was used basically to just kind of add a little bit of tankage and a little bit of DPS wherever it was needed. Didn't usually have to have it for the Flying Machine. The Flying Machine was usually taken off the board with that fireball. And even the one time that we saw that the Flying Machine was able to take the Cannon Cart off of its wheels, the Mega Minion worked its way towards the Flying Machine. So Inthril doing a good job there, choosing his deck, pretty heavy, good single target DPS, a lot of AoE there to make sure that he can take out those goblins when they populate the map from the drill. And then of course Graveyard, a very popular win condition over the last couple of, I'd say the last month plus in CRL in competitive play, and now we're seeing it here in GameStars. We didn't see a lot of it yesterday, only a handful of times, but pretty strong to start. Here we go. Majran still looking for his very first victory here in GameStars League. Inthril picks up his second. Which has actually been showing up more and more lately. I'm still not completely convinced that she should be played in the meta, but we have seen her in other graveyard decks. I've seen her in a handful of even a couple of Goblin Drill decks, which is very odd, and even Royal Giants. So we'll see what this is from Inthril. Mega Minion out again. Also seen her in Giant decks, so yeah. Majran gives out the oops as he misses those skellies on the Fisherman. It's usually a very easy +2 trade, is just dropping your skellies right by the Princess Tower. He'll stand at the river, and there's the Giant. So probably Giant GY. Should have probably led with that instead of finishing with it, but most popularly I've seen it with Giant. Majran going back to drill. Hasn't had a lot of success with it here in the tournament, but he did have to get through the open qualifiers. Now we see that second drill come out here from Majran. Dark Prince going to be placed up high. Easy cleanup there. He's going to turn around, though, and face the other Dark Prince. Goblins, though, focus on the Dark Prince of Inthrills. Ends up being a pretty clean defense. 1509, though. A lot of damage in. But this is when the Giant deck can start to create a lot more pressure in Double Elixir. Cheeky Bandit there still connects. Fish Boy going to sneak right behind that Giant. Should help with the Dark Prince here, unless another unit comes down. And Dark Prince does still get that charge in on the Giant. And there we go. Arrows on top of the first Tesla. Second Tesla down for Majran, but still, skeletons piling up like crazy. He had to have expected the Graveyard to come in, but just not enough defense played. And Tower almost down again. Majran really struggling to deal with Graveyard here in Gamestars League. And there you go. He just gets the laughing face again, which feels like he's already resigned himself, but still only behind by 300 HP. This game is definitely not over yet. But a big blue push coming across the bridge here. Giant taking for everything. Nothing there to clean up those skeletons. Bomber goes off the board, and that's going to be Tower down. 2-0 to start the day. Majran struggling to find his first victory. 0-5 in his rookie season here in Gamestars League, but you know, set's not over yet. These are best of fives. It is the first person to three. Majran now losing with both of those decks, can come back to either of them, but at least his opponent Inthrill knows that he'll be going up against Goblin Drill. And then conversely for Inthrill, he has to pick up a win with his third deck. Just to remind you guys, since we were kind of rushing into the game, every player must bring 3 decks to the competition. They have to win with all 3 of their decks in these best of fives. It's not that you can win 3 out of your 5 games with any of your 3 decks. It's that you have to win with all 3 of them. And in Season 1, Eric Benamou and myself casting this saw a lot of players struggle with their third deck choice, or at least picking up that third game win. Sometimes they'd find themselves in really bad matchups, and then maybe they just weren't as familiar with those decks. So hopefully that's not the position that Inthrill finds himself in. Majran on the other side of it in this civil war, just struggling to find his footing. You saw there that Giant came out pretty early on from Inthrill. You had to expect, even when we saw the Witch, I know that I kind of beat around the bush there for a moment, but usually when we see Witch, we do have to think Graveyard, and just not thinking about it, not having the correct responses in hand. We did see the second Tesla cycled, but I would have loved to see maybe a Bomber cycled early so we could get a second Bomber down there outside of Arrow's range, or just another Dark Prince out. Whatever it may have been, just something that would have been able to clean up those skeletons a little bit more. But that's still tough. It's still a pretty tough spot to be in. This time, Inthrill going hyper-aggressive. Bomber at the bridge following that Goblin Drill, trying to get some splash damage on top of that Valkyrie. Majran does not bite, gets that E-Wiz up high, overspends, but adequately defends. Four matches today. Next up will be Game Freak TV versus Omer. And then, as we were talking about earlier, the winner of this match will go up against Kike Star. The winner of that match, the Game Freak TV and Omer match, will play against Ligon. Both those guys had a strong showing yesterday. And there you go, defensive freeze early on. Not what you want to see, and that Dark Prince should still... No, it does not get a charge in. Perfectly timed there on the freeze. But still, a lot of damage in. Bowler Loon freeze. Could be Graveyard freeze. Most likely actually going to be GY. There it is. Bandit played a little high. There's the Baby Dragon coming out. Nice block here at the river. Tesla on top of that Baby Dragon. And that Bowler should just be distracted by that Tesla long enough for this Dark Prince to get a charge in. And there we go. Back on the offenses is in Thrill. I don't know if I really love the graveyard that early on. It feels like a bit of an overspend. Or if you're going to pull the trigger on that graveyard, you can't drop in the Baby Dragon as well. That 4 elixir for Majron, that would have him at 10 right now. He would have been able to adequately defend, been able to get back around to his Valkyrie, get it on the board. Instead, he just takes tower down. And tower down, graveyard freeze, that is not the position that you want to be in. Thrill doing the correct thing here, continuing to stay on offense, creating pressure on that King Tower. As you can see here, Majron not able to get a graveyard down. High Skeleton's going to help with the bowler, distract the Inferno. Inferno going to need a little bit more attention, though. Will Inthrill pay attention to the Inferno? He does not. There's the Fireball. Fireball comes out with the freeze on top, and there's still a pile up here on the left-hand side. Majron making a case for it here, trying to stay alive. If he loses this game, it will be the end of his GameStars run, and that looks like it's going to do it. 10 seconds remain. Majron goes 0-6 in the Western European Regional Finals. Inthrill going to cap things off with a 3-crown victory to say goodbye, my friend. And Inthrill still in the hunt here in the elimination bracket of our Western European Regional Finals. First place through third place get to take home $1,000, while fourth place does get to go on to our international group stage. It's still nice to make a little bit of cash along the way. Majron, as we say goodbye to you, we'll come back and take a look at the highlights in just a moment, or maybe what might be considered a little bit of lowlights if you are Majron, just not able to pick up a victory here in GameStars League. And that just shows you how fierce the competition is and how important that deck selection is. And of course, the patience. I think that's one thing that we saw out of Majron, was that he got a little hyper aggressive instead of moments when he should have defended. And as you saw there in that very last game, getting that Baby Dragon out in that graveyard push was just a bit of an overspend, and it really hurt him on the defensive side of it. And as you can see in these early highlights, graveyard, 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 working out for Inthrill today. And if you are his opponent, unfortunately, your decks are already pre-submitted, but hopefully you match up well against Graveyard, as we see that Inthrill is going to be rocking 2 versions of Graveyard. And then here you go, Goblin Drill, 3-crown to cap things off in Game 3. That is an 0-6 run for Majron today, but the positive side of it, Inthrill gets to start off with a nice 3-0 sweep after struggling a bit yesterday. Yesterday, Inthrill could not best Lygan CR, who he doesn't have to face off again today. It'll be Kike Star here in our second to last match. Majron, we say goodbye to you, my friend. Great performance thus far, and congratulations on getting here through that open qualifier. Inthrill will continue to represent Poland as we work our way through the rest of these finals. You can see yesterday, just a bit of a reminder, there you see, top of your screen, St. Belican, 6-0 on the day. Him and Sasa will be facing off against each other. Sasa 6-2 on the day yesterday. Very strong performances from both of them. And as you can see, Majron gets the gray out there. Kike Star and Inthrill will be facing off in our second to last match. But first, we got to go to Game Freak TV and Omer. They'll be facing off and trying to see who gets to go up against Lygan CR, who had a really strong showing against Inthrill, who we just saw play very well, but then struggled against St. Belican. There you go. That is the rest of our day today. As you see, it's a much shorter day today than we had yesterday, as these are just the Western European Regional Finals, not, of course, our international group stage or international playoffs, but happy to have best of 5, so we do get enough Clash action for the day. So after our first Civil War in Poland, we head to our Civil War in Germany. Game Freak TV yesterday not able to take down Sasa. Was able to take 1 game off of him, unlike Sasa's opponent tomorrow in St. Belican, who was untouchable. Game Freak TV, though, not able to put things together. We did see him play a bit of Golem, I believe, but please forgive me if I am incorrect there. And then Omer, his opponent on the other side of it, not able to best Kike Star. Those guys went head-to-head in another 3-in-1 bout. And of course, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, those decks are already pre-submitted. So while these guys are going to be giving away information, their opponents who are waiting in the wings in Lygan and Kike Star cannot really game against them. But what they can do is strategize against how they think they're going to open. For instance, if I was going to play against Inthrill, I think that he probably opens with one of his 2 graveyard decks. And I think it's probably the one that we saw him open with Maybe not the one that he opened with today, just because he might want to change things up. But then again, he might go to Goblin Drill because he ran more Graveyard, and his opponent might be thinking Graveyard first, and maybe Drill will match up better. I guess that's the whole point of having an analyst instead of being a commentator. We'll see about that in just a little bit. But first, Game Freak TV and Omer, both of these gentlemen from Germany, and both of them struggling a bit yesterday. They had good moments, but ultimately were just not able to put it together in the sets. We saw, I think, one of the things that Game Freak struggled with the most was dual lane pressure coming in, and of course, if he was running those golem decks, which I believe he was, he just had a hard time defending adequately, or at least figuring out when to min-max, take a bunch of damage, and go in on the tower. So here we go. After a civil war in Poland, we head to a civil war in Germany. Game Freak, top of your screen. Omer at the bottom, and a cycled Valkyrie in the back, which means he's probably got another unit like a bomber to help clean up what could be goblin drills. Usually you don't cycle your Valkyries in the back right now in this current meta, because you might need them in just a moment. Lusky also showing up just a little bit more these days, as it felt like everyone was obsessed with playing up with the drill. Then they started going to the skies because Goblin Drills were struggling a lot against certain Lava Hound matchups. That meant the Musketeer needed to come back into the meta. So maybe Skeletons here to distract. Would have been nice to play a bit higher and to the right. And there we go, Lava Hound out. So decent responses here for Omer. He has the Mega Minion, he has the Musketeer for direct single target damage up in the skies. He, of course, has the Tesla there, will help with the pups and help distract whatever else might come in. Fireball going to go on top of that Flying Machine 10 times out of 10. And, of course, the Snowball to help with when those Lava Pups do come out. Maybe we see a Valkyrie here to distract the Electro Dragon. There it is, Valkyrie up high. Miner goes to the Musketeer. Skeletons just in time. Nice defense there from Omer. Valkyrie will get a couple swings on the tower as well, so he ends up actually getting the better of that exchange, at least for the moment. There you go, 24-14 to 23-13. Omer now going to have to think about how he wants to go on offense, but instead decides to reset for defense. And that Goblin Cage just placed a little bit high by Game Freak. It's going to make easy pickings for that Musketeer. And now we see good Fireball opportunity. There it is. Misses the Inferno, though, but takes the Flying Machine off the board, and Inferno not going to make it to the tower anyway. Graveyard finally comes down here. Nothing to get on top of those Skeletons. There's the Snowball. And that is going to be a very, very nicely executed Graveyard. That should be almost tower down. 657 remains, and now we'll see how Game Freak wants to go back on offense. But right now, it just feels like Omer has his number. Great responses to everything that Game Freak throws at him. The Skeleton's out in time. Valkyrie sneaks in front. Pups get a little bit of damage in, but now we have a counter push coming. And we see a lava block at the bridge here, right on top of that Mega Minion. So Skeleton's still going to be populate there with no tank, and there you see a very nicely timed Snowball, Valkyrie plus Musketeer on the opposite side, and a very, very clean game number one here from Omer. Graveyard so far perfect on the day, 3-0. It showed up both in the opening hands of the victor in both of the opening sets that we've seen today. Omer's a little bit different, a lot different, I should say, than what we saw out of Inthrill. This one much more control-based. It honestly looked a lot like the Mortar decks that were pretty popular a while ago. Valkyrie, Snowball, Skeletons, Musketeer. The spell's obviously a bit different, and of course the building being Tesla instead of Mortar, and we did see Fireball instead of Poison, but right now, even in that Mortar deck that I'm talking about, Fireball's basically always the go-to choice, usually to pick off Mother Witches, but as we saw in this game, all about that Flying Machine. Snowball came in really handy on top of that Skarmy. Game Freak TV just not really able to put together the pushes that he would have liked. And, you know, when you're talking about Lava Miner pushes like we just saw, as you can see, not a lot of threat if you're able to keep things at bay, which is exactly what Omer was able to do. He had a lot of good single target DPS. He had tanks for the pups. He had that Tesla to help out. Would have been nice to see a balloon in there, maybe instead of that Electro Dragon. Electro Dragon not really doing much for Game Freak in that matchup. We'll see when he decides to bring that deck back out in this set. But most likely for now, I'd see him probably want to change things up. So Omer going back to Snowball and Skellies. And Musketeer. Game Freak goes, wow. He can't believe it. He's seeing basically the same thing as he goes back to the skies. And Omer has repeated 4 of the same cards already. Remember, he can repeat 6 of the same cards. Fireball going to come out on top of that Flying Machine. And Game Freak can't really believe he's seeing the exact same matchup, at least so far. So Snowball plus Tesla going to do a pretty good job cleaning up here. And now we'll probably see Omer figure out some sort of offensive push that he'd like to put together from the back. There we go. So looking like we might see Graveyard out of Omer again. Maybe he swapped out Dark Prince for Valkyrie. And Graveyard is out again. So we're seeing the exact same deck from Omer, which I didn't think he could repeat. Game Freak TV probably not super happy with it either, as it is the exact same matchup he saw before. And I guess we'll have to find out. Both these players sitting back and resetting. And another Graveyard in on this side. Fireball most likely going to come out in a moment to get on top of the Flying Machine. Skeletons piling up in the front and the back. And not quite towered down yet, but pretty dang close. So just a bit of a clarification here from League Operations. It appears that you can repeat your decks. You can pick up 3 wins with any of your decks. You just have to submit 3 decks that do have 6 cards that can repeat, 2 unique cards, but they can repeat their decks. So that is my mistake there. And Game Freak TV probably wishing that I was correct in that moment as he runs into the exact same matchup and he's having basically the exact same results. So a big thank you to League Ops there for giving me a heads up and clarification. And that is going to be a quick 2-0 from Omer here, rocking that Graveyard deck back to back. That is got a wonderful response to what Game Freak TV has brought to him in both of these games. Going just to, I mean, we just saw a mirror matchup. The loser repeated, the winner repeated, and it was the exact same situation. You know, Game Freak saw it early on. You saw the wow come out from him. Really, really tough when you talk about not having that balloon there. If there was a balloon in that deck instead of the Electro Dragon, it would have created such a more difficult time for Omer to defend. Now, could he do it still? Most likely, because he had so many great responses. You could hold either the Mega Minion or the Musketeer after that balloon pulls to the Tesla to focus that damage on there, and then you still have the knockback from the Snowball or the Fireball, depending on how much elixir you have at hand, and then you'd maybe get a little bit of pup damage in, but it would just make things more difficult. You'd have to spend more elixir. As you saw in those matchups, Omer always able to protect his Musketeer, always able to get a Fireball on top of the Flying Machine, always able to either snowball the Lava Pups or the Skarmy to defend the Graveyard. So had there been just a little bit more pressure on the offensive side here from Game Freak TV, I think really would be the balloon for that Electro Dragon, you'd have yourself a pretty good offensive presence that would just demand a bit more out of your opponent, whether it's elixir wise, whether it's interaction wise, and that's what you really want to do, right? You don't want to make it easy on your opponent to defend, although running into the exact same matchup back to back, no one really wants to see that. So here we go, going into game number 3 here in the elimination bracket. Game Freak TV's career here in Gamestars League Season 2 on the line. Will we start our day off with 2 sweeps? Let's find out. Minions out with Musketeer. Bit of an odd combination. Omer decides to switch things up after great success with his starting deck in games 1 and 2. Mega Minion does get a swing on tower. First time we've seen Mother Witch today. Bit of a surprise there. Would have been really helpful in a few of those graveyard matchups. So Pig gonna get tanked for here by that Mother Witch. Gonna bring that tower below 1900 HP, and now down below 1800. So Sparky at the top of your screen. Mega Minion will get 1 swing. 2 swings on top of that Sparky. Pretty fortunate there for Omer. Goblin Giant comes down as well. And Fireball out early. Sparky still has a little bit of legs. Barrel comes in, and a very, very nice defense there from Omer. With a strong counter push coming in, Game Freak has to spend down to 0. Fisherman comes down at the bridge. Not going to be down in time to actually get the charge away from the Dark Prince, but does add a little bit of DPS. Now we see Dark Prince plus Fisherman on tower. Mini P.E.K.K.A comes down a second late, but damage already done. 1169 to 2486. And now that Mega Minion, excuse me, now that, well, yeah, Mega Minion out as well, but that Mini P.E.K.K.A is one of the most threatening parts of that Goblin Giant Sparky push across the bridge when you drop that Mini P.E.K.K.A in late. Now we see a defensive rage being used to help clean up. Royal Giant still doing its damage. Goblin Barrel back in, or excuse me, Bar Barrel back in. There it is. And right now, Game Freak all out of sorts in regards to his cycle. Not able to put together the push that he'd like. There's that Mini P.E.K.K.A plus Goblin Giant push that I was talking about just a moment ago. We see a nice use of the Goblin Cage here after the Fisherman comes down. Mother Witch going to be able to get a couple of those minions turned into pigs, which will be nice to distract that Mini P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant down. Defense perfect from Omer. And this does feel like the end of Game Freak's run here in GameStars League. Pile up on the right-hand side. Fireball in. Tower going down on the left-hand side with that Royal Giant. And that is going to do it. 2 clean sweeps to start our day in 2 civil wars. Poland first, and then we headed over to Germany. But Game Freak and Majron now eliminated from competition. And you got a feel for Game Freak there, going back-to-back on that Lava Hound minor deck to start his day off today. And running into the exact same matchup from Omer. Omer looking into his mind, seeing the future, and putting himself in a very, very good spot matchup-wise. And here you go, looking at what we just saw in regards to decks. Omer just played that very clean. He had really nice defenses. He only got 2 Royal Giants down. That's all he needed to do. It looked like it was about to be a 2-tower game, though, because he had a great counter push coming in on the right-hand side, which just goes to show you how great and efficient his defenses were. And this is what we saw, right? Game 1 looking the exact same as game number 2. I promise you it's different as we see the left-hand tower fall instead of the right this time. And as you can see, Game Freak at this point had already resigned himself, running into the exact same matchup back to back. And then we see both of our competitors change things up. Royal Giant in the left-hand lane. Big time push in the right-hand lane. Probably wouldn't have been tower down. Actually, it looks like it probably would have been with that Mother Witch hanging out, but it didn't matter. Royal Giant already doing work on the opposite side of the board, and Omer making it look easy. Graveyard to start, Royal Giant to finish, and Game Freak TV just not able to do it. Graveyard, as you can see there on that top right-hand side of the screen. Great graveyard deck. Good cycle, good control, and you have a lot of cards that are just tanky enough to tank for those skeletons. And one of the things that I loved seeing out of him was he did have a couple Valkyrie plus Skellies push that ran into the graveyard, created a lot of pressure, and also added just a little bit of speed to that Valkyrie. So really nice stuff here from Omer, who will keep his run here in GameStars League alive in our Western European Regional Finals. If we take a look here at the bracket, just to repeat, the upper bracket final will come in tomorrow. That'll be our second matchup of the day tomorrow. St. Belican and, of course, Sasa sitting back and waiting and watching all of their opponents. 2 of them have now fallen. Majron and Game Freak TV have found the end of their run here at GameStars League. Kike Star, Inthrill, Ligan, and Omer. Any one of those guys could be eliminated over the next 2 matches first, we're going to go to Inthril versus Kike Star, and then it'll be Ligan going up against Omer. So excited to see what these guys have in store for us. And now that we know that Graveyard has been pretty popular so far, we'll see how Ligan and Kike Star want to plan for that. What I did like about Omer's set as opposed to Inthril's was that we saw Inthril play all three of his decks, which, you know, no fault in that. But Omer, since he did repeat one of his decks, he can keep his opponent guessing on what his third deck is going to be and can still surprise him. So I'm curious to see how he wants to start his set, which will be the last set of the day. Him and Ligan will be closing out our day. And honestly, if I'm Omer, it might be nice to go back to a deck that worked really well. Maybe he just goes back to that Valkyrie Musketeer Graveyard deck, since it does have a lot of control aspects to it. It has a lot of great responses to what's really popular in the meta right now. You know, you have Snowball plus Valkyrie to help out with any Goblin drills. The single target DPS of the Musketeer can help with any of those big beatdown decks. You have the Tesla in right now, which is obviously the strongest building in the game. And then, of course, Graveyard. I've talked about it a lot for year after year after year. It felt for a while here in 2021 that Graveyard had fallen out of the meta along with Royal Giant, but over the last couple months, they're definitely back with a vengeance. Royal Giant a little bit more popular in grand challenges and on top ladder, but in competitive play here in GameStars League and CRL alike, we saw a lot more Graveyard than I think we would have expected, and a lot less Goblin Drill and a lot less success with Goblin Drill. We still haven't seen a ton of it today. But we'll see here in the next couple sets if we will get more Goblin Drill or if we'll see different win conditions come out. So far, Lava Hound has struggled today, and we haven't seen any beatdown Golem decks. We saw Golem a lot more yesterday. We saw Clone come out a couple times, not really having any success. But Royal Giant, I think for me, is the win condition that I think the most surprised that we saw the least of yesterday. Today, we saw it, you know, obviously in that set that Game Freak and Omer just closed out, but Graveyard now showing up a lot more than it did yesterday, which makes a lot of sense for me, at least when we're talking about competitive play. Cycle decks, control decks, still not showing up much. Hog Cycle is still pretty popular in the meta. Expo, we saw try to come out against St. Belican, but as I've always said, those strictly control decks that are quick cycles, that are basically matchups you've run into since you started playing, 2.6 Hog Rider, you know, Expo, whatever version you're coming out with, Expo or Icepo, those types of decks. And then traditional bridge spam. Traditional bridge spam can find itself with really great matchups, but also you have to remember your opponents have played against it since they probably started playing the game. So here we go. Kike Star, top of your screen. Inthril back out, bottom of your screen, and a Mortar to start. Mortar plus Cannon Cart usually means Graveyard. Mortar does get a connection there early on, and this Cannon Cart will make light work of that Bandit. Bandit should be cleaned off the board here before it gets a dash. Bottom of your screen, a lot of pressure can be created there. Going with a version of Bridge Spam. We'll see what else is going to round out this deck as the Royal Ghost and the Inferno Dragon wave at each other for a moment. Inferno turns itself around. Magic Archer up here on top of that Mortar, going to help. And now we see a Heal Spirit to distract that Inferno Dragon, but nothing else there. Now a Bandit has to come down last second. Bandit will get a nice charge on top of the Valkyrie, play a bit of double duty, tanking for both of those units, and a pretty solid defense there from Inthril, who decides to go back on offense with this Royal Ghost. Skeleton's not placed quite perfectly. You can get a full surround. That is very tough, though. Surrounding with skeletons on Royal Ghosts, on Sparkies. Sparky a little bit easier, maybe, but the timing can be very difficult. Even on something like a Dark Prince. Fireball in. That's a really nice fireball. Cannon Cart going to need a response. Nothing there. Heal Spirit does come down last second, and that was a very, very nice heads-up Heal Spirit there that just saved Inthril from a ton of damage. So last card there from Inthril, most likely going to be a spell of sorts. And Inthril does have a lot of good responses here to Kike's offensive options. Once again, the Inferno Dragon and Royal Ghost about to wave hi to each other, but Valkyrie dropped once again. And a nice connection there on the right-hand side. Battle Ram connects to the tower as we see our most substantial damage so far, 1685, 1886. Inthril firmly in control as of right now, but as we all know, one graveyard can turn everything around. And a nice lineup there, the Magic Archer on the right-hand side, gonna bring that tower down to 1241 and 1366 respectively. Damage being split quite a bit here by Inthril. So far in a good spot though, because his opponent hasn't found any damage really in this matchup. So Piggy gonna run into some skellies there on the left-hand side. Piggy going to run into some skellies. Royal Ghost just demanding a bit of a response. Magic Archer up high here. Not going to be able to get a pig on the board, but still going to clean up that Inferno Dragon nice and get one shot in over on that Valkyrie as these E-Barbs meet that cannon cart. Now we see a Royal Ghost at the bridge on the opposite lane. Cannon cart out here. Kike Star just having to spend a little bit more than he'd like on all of these defenses, just being a little bit out of cycle, it appears, and that's because of the relentless pressure that has been created here by Inthril as we see it continue. Valkyrie gonna do some nice cleanup here. Late heal spirit though, that is a really nice heal spirit. Fireball on top of both those elite barbarians, but now nothing on the left-hand lane, and that was a beautifully crafted offense from Inthril. A perfect heal spirit means the overspend must come in from Kike Star. That fireball had to come down because that was a brilliant heal spirit. Now you saw the pile up come in, which was a great opportunity for Kike Star. He goes, okay, perfect. You're going to spend all that at the bridge. I'm going to stop you with the Valkyrie. I'm going to get a great +3 trade, +4 trade here. But that last second heal spirit, you know, credit to Kike Star to have that fireball locked, loaded, and ready to go. But Inthril had already created pressure in the opposite lane. So Kike Star not ever able to get that graveyard down, which is, I'm assuming, what that his win condition had to be. We'll see in a moment when we take a look here at the decks. But that was a really, really nice performance from Inthril. Pressure, pressure, pressure. 107 elixir spent on troops. He did leak a little bit of elixir, but it didn't really matter. He just played pretty firmly throughout, and as you can see there, just a ton of damage done on both sides of the screen from Inthril. Would have been an easy 2-tower game. Kike Star from Spain just getting a little bit overwhelmed by the man from Poland. Really nice way to start off your day. 4-0, and there it is. 0 graveyards out from Kike Star. We knew what it was from the opening moments, right? We saw a cannon cart, we saw a mortar, and Inthril must have known the exact same thing. I mean, I would assume so. He's better at Clash than I am, and I knew what it was. So what does he do? Pressure, 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 and he never let up wherever he could find a moment. And usually what it was for him was just cycling Royal Ghost at the bridge. That was all he had to do over and over and over. I mean, and so many other things, but a lot of times all he needed to do to make sure his opponent could not get those graveyards down was just creating enough pressure with those 3 elixir cards or dropping a battle ram down and a couple nice battle ram connections. So a really great opening from Inthril. And Kike Star decides to go to Goblin Drill after game 1's graveyard attempt did not work. So Bandit going to get a connection here on the right-hand side, but Inthril still going to be the victor of this opening exchange as those Zappies, 2 Zappies, get to get that left-hand tower down to 1862 as we see Royal Recruits split in the back. It's going to be very tough for that Inferno Dragon to create much of a presence. Talk about all these recruits and all their shields. Mega Knight cycled in the opposite lane. Mega Knight will have a much easier time. And there we go, balloon in behind those recruits. Goblin Drill gonna have to be played defensively. There it is. Inferno Dragon goes off the board. Recruit still tanking for that balloon, at least for a moment. Now balloon tanking for the recruit. Balloon gonna get a big time drop in here. Fireball on top of the Inferno to reset, and I actually really like that Fireball. Look at that. Fireball goes high on the map, pushes the Inferno Dragon forward, and now that Mega Knight gets to the tower, which actually ends up being the most damage done on the board. So what looked like a very bad opening for Kike Star there ends up being a great turnaround with the heads-up Fireball. Well played. Bit of a reset there, as I was talking about. You see Inthril use those arrows on top of the bandit. Not quite a great tell to show that he's at 10 elixir, just so happened to be at the exact same moment that he had to defend. There we go, Dark Prince on one side, Mega Knight in the other, and that's going to make it so a balloon push is a little bit harder to get across here because those Royal recruits will not be tanking for that MK, or excuse me, will not be tanking for that balloon, as the MK will take them off the board. So here we go, Bats plus Inferno plus Goblin Drill going to make light work here of this balloon. And now that bandit going to dash on through. Dark Prince played just to protect those Zappies for a moment, as these Zappies need to play defense on the opposite lane, and they do just that very, very well, very efficiently against this Inferno. And now back around to Balloon is Inthril, and yes, there it is. Balloon comes down. Mega Knight does as well. Mega Knight locked, loaded, and ready to go. But as we see that all happening on the right-hand lane, Royal Recruits doing work on the left-hand side. Mega Knight going to leap in on that tower, though. Mega Knight has been doing work for Kikestar in both lanes. Bandit hiding underneath that Inferno Dragon. Is there anything there to catch it? No, there is not, and this is an overwhelm by Kikestar. Fireball in. Bandit gonna get one more swing on that tower. 199 to 672. Balloon in on the left-hand lane. Can Inthril take the game before that tower falls on the bottom left, right-hand side of your screen? Balloon goes in. No, sir, cannot, but arrows baited out. So Fireball plus arrows means that there is one more cycle here, and we see drills go out in both lanes. Drill finally out here from Inthril. Wow, look at that. Look at that. The drill actually does it. The last minute drill, the last second drill, the last card played from Inthril surprises his opponent. Drill comes in, no responses in hand. Arrows had just been used defensively, and those goblins stack up just in time. And Kikestar has to feel robbed. I don't know how he couldn't after that. Looked like he had that game all sewn up. And then Inthril comes in with the last minute goblin drill, takes the game, and he is 5-0 on the day. A very, very great start for him today here. An elimination day from him. From that opening set, he knew that he could be saying goodbye to his run here in Gamestars, where I ran into him for the very first time in the international group stage in Season 1. Right now, fighting for his life here in our Western European regional finals. Only 4 elixir spent on buildings there. Mega Knight doing a lot of work for Kikestar, connects on both sides of the board to get in a ton of damage, but just not able to sew things up for real. Real close there. Arrows being cycled late game. It's the only time that he played arrows in that entire game, and it was the one time that he needed to hold his arrows. That's the way Clash will do you sometimes. You use the most important spell, and credit to Inthril. He never showed his hand. He was getting so much work done with his Royal Recruits plus balloon pushes. He never had to get that Goblin Drill out. And what a wonderful time to pull it out in those final moments. So will it be 3 sweeps on the day? Let's find out here as we go into game number 3 of our third best of 5. Inthril, 5-0 on the day. Started today with 1 win and 3 losses, you can see in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Kikestar, after a great showing yesterday, still looking for his first win today. So there you go, Fishboy gonna pull that Electro Giant in early. Mama P.E.K.K.A is there to respond, but so is the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Now Mama P.E.K.K.A turns to Mini P.E.K.K.A. Ewiz has to come down as well. The massive overspend here with a good amount of damage in. Could have been worse, only took about 800 there, but now as you can see, not gonna get much out of this push. Kikestar, great start so far. So already in our second to last set of the day, and it could be a very quick one. Here we go, Electro Giant Sparky plus Zap. All the electricity on the board. Now we just need to see E-Dragon and a Tesla. No, neither of those are going to show up, but it would have been fun. Go, nice King Tower activation here at NATO. Ram Rider goes in now. No NATO in cycle. King Tower is active. looking like they're going to go for a tower trade. Problem is, Inthril has a lot more to deal with than his opponent, Kike Star. Kike Star, though, gets that Sparky slowed down. Mama Pekka not going to be able to come in time. A really nice fireball there. Heads up fireball. Still going to need a little bit more Royal Ghost. There it is. Royal Ghost does come down, and look at that. Beautiful exchange. Fisherman pulls the Electro Giant to King Tower. We see a perfectly placed and timed Electro Wizard, and then, of course, the cleanup there at the end with the Royal Ghost. Now, the Royal Ghost getting damage in on the left-hand tower as well. So a great turnaround there for Inthril. Electro Giant out. Sparky gonna get distracted by that little piggy. Now we see the Fisherman in. Fisherman, though, gets reset with a very well-timed zap. Fisherman on top of the Sparky. Royal Ghost is there just in time. Sparky goes down. Minipek is still getting to swing on that right-hand tower as Inthrill's distracting here on the left-hand side. Lot to deal with as that Electro Giant gets on top. Electro Giant, never want that on your Princess Tower. Everything being spent, overspent, but now the Electro Wizard out of cycle for this Sparky. Good fireball value there. Gets the bomber off the board. Fireball plus arrows. Not going to be enough for the Sparky to go. And the slow on the Electro Giant, not the Ram Rider. Royal Ghost comes in to clean up that Sparky again. Find ourselves in a pretty even game here. 11:30 to 10:55. Mother Witches, two of them cycled here on the left-hand side. We'll get that mini Pekka off the board and be distracting enough for the Mega Minion to spawn one more little piggy. There you go, Ram Rider in on the right-hand side. Zap comes down last second. Bomber, Zap, and Mega Minion all going to be just enough as this Sparky works her way down the left-hand lane. Electro Giant out. E-Wiz down, but there's that Mini Pekka. That's exactly what we were talking about. That Mini Pekka can be so threatening. I mean, I was talking about it in the Goblin Giant Sparky matchup, but same thing here. That Mini Pekka right there on top of the units make it so that Electro Wizard cannot continue to reset that Sparky. And there we go, big push on the left-hand side. Ram Rider going down the right-hand side. Does Kike Star have enough? Zap not there. Ram Rider on tower. Mini Pekka comes in late. 470 now to 896. Arrows in perfectly on top of that bomber. Gets a little bit on the Mega Minion as well. And Electro Giant not even close to the tower this time around. However, Mini Pekka almost getting us some free pancakes on the right-hand side. Fireball in. Ram Rider going in. Ram Rider not going to be able to connect. Mini Pekka there just in time. Left-hand tower goes down. And Inthril, 6-0 on the day. A perfect 6-0, just as we saw from St. Belican yesterday. Inthril, though, doing it in the elimination bracket, staying alive, wanting to go to the international playoffs. And here we go. Western European regional finals and 6-0 for the man from Poland. You love to see it. He goes 3-0 against Majran, 3-0 here against Kike Star, even though it looked like Kike had his number in game 2, but just not able to do it. Let's take a look at those highlights before we hop into our last match of the day. And this is how it started. Beautiful plays when you talk about pressure. That's all we saw there in game number 1. Kike Star never able to get that graveyard down. And here we go, game number 2. The final pull, the last card, wasn't a spell, wasn't another troop. It was the Goblin Drill, which is the worst thing that Kike Star could have seen in that moment. Although seeing Fireball and arrows out already, you had to expect it wasn't going to be a spell. And there you go, the MVP of the day, the Electro Wizard on the left-hand side. Keeping that Sparky at bay, getting damage in on that Princess Tower, and ends up taking the game for Inthril, who goes a perfect 6-0 on the day. And those are the decks he did it with. Kike Star had a good run, but we're going to have to say goodbye to him, as we've said goodbye to Game Freak TV and Majran already. So now Inthril going to sit back and wait to see who he's going to play between Omer and Ligan as we take a look here at our bracket. St. Belican and Sasa we'll see tomorrow. Then our second matchup of the day, Inthril will be kicking things off tomorrow morning. In our first matchup of the day against either Ligan or Omer. Omer, though, looking real clean there in his start today. 3-0 over Game Freak TV. The two Germans went head-to-head, and Omer had his number. Graveyard 2 games in a row. Royal Giant to close things out. We'll see how Ligon wants to respond to that. Omer in a bit of a different spot, though. 3 pre-submitted decks, 3 wins on the day, but only 2 decks shown. So we'll see what he wants to come out with first. As we take a look at our schedule, look at that. 0-3, Inthrill. 0-3, Omer. 0-3, Inthrill once again. Majran, Game Freak, Kike Star, all eliminated. Poland, Germany, and Spain. Now, one more Spaniard, one more German. Going to go head-to-head in our final matchup of the day. Omer and Ligon. Ligon had a nice run yesterday, but it was Saint Belican who was not able to be taken down by anyone. Majran had his first attempt. Ligon was the second man up. So we'll see if Sasa can do it tomorrow, or will Saint Belican remain perfect through his run to the grand finals here in the Western European regional finals. $1,000 up for grabs. 500 goes to first place, 300 to second, 200 to third place, and while fourth place will get to go to the international group stage, they will not be walking away with any cash here in the Western European regional finals. So they played through the open qualifiers. They're going to play through Western Europe, and then they get to go on to our international group stage where 16 players from all around the world, over 60 countries involved, 70 countries actually involved here in GameStars League, will be battling for $30,000. That's right. Lion's share goes to first place, but $30,000 up for grabs, and a handful given away in these European regional finals, whether it's Eastern, whether it's Western, and of course the MEA ones that we saw. Gen C Aslan, MEA, able to put it together once again. So him and Inthrill might have the opportunity to play against each other in the international group stage again. Excited to see him having success, as Gen C Aslan was our first place victor looking at the MEA playoffs, and excited to see him and 3 other players from there maybe battling out against some of these guys that we're seeing today, at least a couple of them, I'd hope. You know, we got to get 4 through here, Western Europe. And speaking of Western Europe, this is our second to last day. We're going to be back the exact same time tomorrow to see who's going to be in that top 4. But here we go. Ligon top of your screen. Omer at the bottom. It looks like Omer is going to go to the deck that we did not see yet. I like that. Gen C Aslan, Mini Kuma, The Awesome, and COK were the 4 players that made it through from the Middle East. Still trying to find our 4 from Western Europe and Eastern Europe, and we are one step closer today. So Piggy's at the bottom of your screen. Fireball, Dark Prince, pretty good responses. Goblin Drill comes out. Bandit crosses the river here, and Valkyrie going to be placed in a precarious position. So we see Spear Goblins come down and a Royal Delivery. Dark Prince should be good cleanup here for the Valkyrie Plus, but then we see a cannon card added on both sides of the board. They'll take each other off their wheels and just continue firing away at one another. And we're going to find ourselves at a good time to reset here. Looking like Omer's up about 1 elixir, so he decides to go in with his piggies here. Fireball going to come out, going to mitigate most all that damage. We'll get a couple of those snouts in, bring that tower down to 2180, 2172. 8 HP separate these 2 gentlemen in our final best of 5 of the day. Wow, it feels like it happened so quickly, but I guess that's what happens when you get 3 sweeps in a row. And there you see the wow come out from Omer. Those Spear Goblins not doing what he would have liked, and now we see the mortar come down as piggies populate the board here on the opposite side. Mother Witch only able to get 2 instead of 3. Barb Barrel in. Barb Barrel going to be enough with that mortar distracted. Omer leaking a bit of elixir here, decides to go cannon cart in the back. And Ligon responds in kind. Hoggy's out once again. Fireball going to be there. Yes, it is. A little bit more snout damage in. Valkyrie going to be here to distract. Dark Prince going to come in to distract as well. Bandit not going to be able to dash. Look at that. Musketeer plus Goblins ready to go as the Mother Witch comes down. Fireball going to take her off the board. Musketeer alive, but is she really? Not going to demand much of a response here. As she crosses the river, she'll be taken off the board by that Princess Tower. Damage in, though, on the left-hand side. 1252 remains, as Omer really not happy about that Bandit connection earlier. Royal Delivery going to come down on top. There it is. You see a reset for another skirmish here on the left-hand side. One thing that Omer needs to try to do is bait out that fireball by overwhelming his opponent. Problem is, his opponent has so many tanky cards that can respond so adequately to the pushes that Omer would like to put together. So maybe needing to find more opportunities to get that mortar down. Fireball in. Dark Prince played up high. Musketeer going to get taken off the board here by that Barbarian. And once again, resetting here with the cannon cart in the left-hand lane. If he goes piggies in the right-hand side again, it'll just be an easy fireball, so he's got to change things up. And there you go. Trying to make something happen with the pile-up. This time he does break through. Cannon cart does break through. Now the mortar comes down. Now we see Omer trying to make some moves. Second cannon cart comes down. Going to take that Mother Witch off the board. Also going to take this Electro Wizard off the board. And then with the Valkyrie played up high, going to create a nice bit of pressure. Nice fireball, though. Cannon cart goes off, and now we see those piggies come in. Tank for a second by that Valkyrie. Fireball in as well. Nice damage there, and that's exactly what we were just talking about. Making his opponent spend that fireball on anything other than those piggies. Then you send the piggies in, and we see the most substantial damage so far from Omer. Royal Delivery time just a second early on, but still tanks for those goblins. Cannon cart going to tank for this mortar for just a second. Second cannon cart comes down. Nicely placed there. See a high E-Wiz. Fireball out once again, and that means that we know the Royal Hogs can come back down. Valkyrie up high. Royal Hogs going to be right behind. There they are. Royal Hogs offset just a hair there to try to avoid the Dark Prince. Fireball in as well, and a very nice start here from Omer, who is going to remain perfect here through his first 4 games. He's just got to stop this Goblin Drill from making anything happen. Not enough time. 361 to 699. Omer picks up his 4th win of the day. So hanging on for dear life was Omer. And then exactly as we were talking about it, right when we were saying he had to create enough pressure to bait out that fireball, he was able to do it. He did it with the mortar first, also what we were saying, and then he gets the first cannon cart down. Cannon cart moves to the other side of the board, gets that Electro Wizard taken off the board. He gets the fireball in, and then once that fireball comes down, the fireball was a great fireball. It was on top of a cannon cart, took it off its wheels, on top of the mortar, didn't have to worry about it hitting tower, and a Valkyrie to make it so she was less intimidating as she crossed the river. However, he was saving those fireballs. Lygan was saving those fireballs for the whole rest of that game just to get on top of the Royal Hogs. The moment that Omer found that opening, fireballs out of cycle, Royal Hogs come in, a substantial amount of damage. So what did he do? He reset with the mortar, got pressure with the cannon cart, got that tank out from the Valkyrie after the fireball was spent once again, and then we get Royal Hogs offset to the left. They get a nice shot on through to the tower. And just very, very nicely played. Found that adjustment late game, didn't force anything early on, and he was struggling for a little while there. It looked like Lygan had his number. It looked like Lygan had the game. Just with all the damage that was coming in, the pressure from those bandits, missing the pickup from the spear goblins. But Omer never lost his cool. He had some nice high musketeers surrounded by spear goblins to protect and make his opponent overspend and stop his offensive pushes in their tracks. So far, it's been all about 2 guys today. Inthrill 6-0, Omer 4-0. Can Lygan be the one to change the tune, or will we see 4 sweeps on the day? 12 games up, 12 games down. We'll find out here as we head into game number 2 of our final best of 5 of the day, Western European Regional Finals. Let's go. Electro Giant out. Going to be stopped in its tracks here by this cannon cart. Dark Prince going to come in to get some good damage on as well. Mortar placed very low and on the outside. And Goblin Giant going to go down with the help of the 2 Princess Towers and that Barbarian. Still, though, in a nice elixir lead is Lygan, up about 1.5, it looks like. And he knows he can reset from the back as that Barbarian. Not going to create any threat, and that mortar isn't going to do anything down there in no man's land. Nice NATO there to pull that Electro Wizard up close, and now going to demand a bit more of a response out of Omer. I like that NATO. Good use of your Elixir lead, and we'll see if Omer decides not to add any support here to this cannon cart because the Inferno Dragon comes out a little bit early there from Lygan. Would have been nice to see that drop just a second later, maybe see if he could bait out some support from his opponent. There we go, Graveyard in for Omer. Nice lightning at the river. Dark Prince not tanking for anything, and we're gonna see it go off the board here with that Brawler. And the Bomber in the back doing work. 2065 though in, about 500 damage. Not bad for a Graveyard here as we get into double Elixir. Electro Giant set up in the back and no threat of a Graveyard coming in right now. But that Electro Wizard will get on tower, so we see that Dark Prince coming out early. Would have been nice to get that Dark Prince behind, but that's the whole point of that pressure from the Electro Wizard. So we could see a really nice lightning here. Would have been nice to see that cannon cart just a bit lower, but gets the pull. Actually, no, there we go. Cannon cart perfectly lightning in time, goes off of its wheels, pulls the Electro Giant forward instead, and that mortar's placed off in no man's land. Not going to get there. Would have pulled had the cannon cart not distracted the Electro Giant, and that was a great use of the lightning there from Lygan. Good catch there from the Goblin Cage to Goblin Brawler to keep this Dark Prince at bay. Not going to be able to give Omer an opportunity to pull the trigger on another Graveyard, as he is now in the same lane as his weakest tower going up against Electro Giant. Electro Giant is also a great response to Graveyard. So we're going to see here those lightnings start to pile up. Inferno Dragon here not going to be able to take this cannon completely down. Actually, yep, there we go. Dark Prince comes out in response, as the cannon cart probably would have fallen off of its wheels. And in a very interesting spot now is Omer. We've seen this big-time bridge battle happening, which is always tough because an Electro Giant can always come down right in the face of your bridge battle, and that's exactly what we're seeing now, though. Nice connection here with the mortar. No ground troops in sight for Lygan, and lightning does come down. But after a couple mortar shots come in, Electro Giant taken off the board. 1106 to 1625. And Lygan looking like he's in an okay spot here to take one game off of Omer on the day with a 500-point lead and only a minute left to play. Triple Elixir coming your way. Nice high lightning there. Electro Wizard, Mortar, and Dark Prince all taken off the board. We see this Bar Barrel come in to protect against that cannon cart and distract that Inferno Dragon. Inferno Dragon, though, stays alive, so 2 Infernos on the board. And now we see an Electro Wizard come in just in time to reset. Mortar, though, distracted by the skeletons. Cannon cart comes down to continue playing defense. Only 35 seconds remain, and we do need to see some offense from Omer, but I just don't think there's anything in the tank for him. Dark Prince going to be cycled off to the right-hand side. Bomber getting tanked for by that Inferno Dragon, and now we see the trigger pulled on the Graveyard, but is this too little too late? Skeleton's going to try to pile up. They need to do a lot of damage, and it looks like Lygan will be the victor here in game number 2. Yes, sir, no time here. Lightning in just to add that cherry on top. NATO there as well. We're going to game number 3, all evened up. Talking about pressure, always talking about that pressure when you're going up against Graveyard there. You saw how difficult it was late game for Omer to get another Graveyard down. Now, he did get that one out early on, but that was really about it in regards to the Graveyard damage, and that was still pretty easily defended. It was a Dark Prince coming across the bridge with the Graveyard in hand. There was already a Goblin Cage on the board and a Bomber played in the back, so not a lot out of it there. And that was also the weaker of the 2 lanes that Omer was trying to work into, but it was also the weaker of his 2 lanes. So when you're having that battle go on, what's really difficult is exactly what we were talking about. Not only does he have nice beefy cards, and he also has that Inferno Dragon to stop your tankier cards from crossing the river, as we kept seeing that Inferno come out on top of the cannon cart, but what's really tough is when you find yourself dropping a ton of units at the bridge, you get that Electro Giant up high and in the face of all of those units, and it just becomes this massive AoE damage dealing tank, and also supports all those units behind because it's going to reset. You know, it's going to get damage in, it's going to do AoE damage, then your troops behind or your opponent's troops behind get to add and target their damage on top of your damage dealers. Very difficult there for Omer to get those Graveyards out. Fireball value, Maybe it would have been nice to see some more fireballs come out from Omer, as he didn't use any of them, but also a little bit tough. However, when you're talking about those pileups at the river, getting a fireball on top of an Electro Giant, an Inferno Dragon, even a Dark Prince with his shield off, a Bomber in there, that's all great value, but just a great job of Ligan of controlling the tempo of that game, controlling the pace. And it would have been nice to see Omer maybe go opposite lane a bit earlier on, but he was just having a really difficult time defending adequately, defending efficiently, having enough elixir to go in the opposite lane, and having the opportunity, really. Again, when you talk about what Ligan was doing and how aggressive he was with his Electro Giants, very difficult game number 2 for the German. So minions out here, so Ligan knows what to expect from his opponent. And Miner for the second time today. Or I guess really the third time today, as we saw it in back-to-back runs from Game Freak TV. Dark Prince up high here, just to create some more pressure. Miner goes in behind, and a nice Mega Knight. Although that Inferno gonna make light work of that MK. Inferno gonna need a response here. And a high cannon cart nicely timed and placed there. Cannon cart gonna take this bomber out of play as well. We find ourselves with Omer in a slight elixir lead and down just a lick of damage. Our final best of 5 today as we head to the skies. Goblin Hut out. So decent responses here for Ligan. When you talk about what he has decent single target DPS in that Mega Minion. Electro Wizard obviously going to help out. Does he have the spell value to deal with these minions? He decides to go Mega Minion, target them. Mega Minion should work towards Lava Hound afterwards. Balloon going opposite lane. Minor Loon opposite lane. Goblin Hut nowhere in sight. Electro Wizard up high. A Mega Minion would have been much nicer, as we see a balloon drop coming in on the right-hand side, but a decent Mega Knight push here on the left, surrounded by Spear Goblins as well. So this is going to be a lot of damage in on both sides of the board for Omer. As you see, Miner comes in to tank for that E-Wiz. Great use of the Miner tank for the E-Wiz. One of my favorite plays in the game. Makes that push just so deadly. 7 elixir, and the reset, the stun, and the tankage of that Miner having a decent amount of HP. Really nice stuff there. 1288 to 1201 in the same lane. Now only separated by 15 damage as both of these players reset on the right-hand side of the board. Ligan, we'll see if he decides to create any pressure on the left-hand side of the board or if he decides to just stick here with his opponent. There we go. Cannon out early on. That should help turn that balloon around. There you go. Balloon turned around. Electro Wizard up high. Goblins populate the board, not taken off by those arrows. Balloon caught in traffic. Mega Minion comes in last second to reset. Miner still on the back of the tower, putting in a ton of damage. 279 to 1216. And that Dark Prince does get caught just in time. Mega Knight, though, lot spent. Will there be enough? A last-second Goblin Hut won't do it. There it is. Last second Goblin Hut does come in, but the balloon healthy enough. Arrows are down. And Omer gonna take game number 3. Ligan's life now on the line. A very, very interesting back and forth. Haymakers thrown in both directions. We saw a really nice hit there from Ligan coming in with that Electro Wizard Miner push on the right-hand side. But it was ultimately those beautifully orchestrated offenses put together by Omer, pushing down that right-hand lane, getting that balloon in just in time, and the Goblin Hut not being in the correct position early on. Can't really fault Ligan too much for it, as it was, you know, you got to get those Goblin Huts on the board to create some sort of offense and, of course, bait elixir out of your opponent. But when you're going up against Minor Loon, they go opposite lane. You have to overspend. That's why I was a little reluctant or a little hesitant when he used the Mega Minion to get on top of the minions, just in case, because at that point we had already seen everything kind of work towards the left-hand side. Had a balloon come out, it could have been very difficult to stop. That's exactly what came out, unfortunately, for Ligan. Balloon gets a drop early on, refocuses the battle to the right-hand side of the board, even though Ligan had damage done on both sides. And then, as you saw there, as that last push got put together. Mega Knight cycled in the back, and then Mega Knight cycled again up high. And by the time that second Mega Knight had come down, that was Lygan spending basically down to 0, having to deal with that Dark Prince coming across the board. Easy way for Omer to pull the trigger on a balloon again. Dark Prince tanks for the balloon for just a moment, and then the only thing that Lygan could have done was drop that Goblin Hut, but we all know that Goblin Hut not going to be enough HP or DPS to take that balloon off the board. Nice play there by Omer, and again, Miner in the back of the tower. So one thing that I've loved out of the German here is never losing his cool and being able to put together these pushes once he recognizes what he's running into from his opponent, as we saw in that other game with Graveyard. You know, he was seeing with his Royal Hogs, what he was really struggling with was figuring out a moment to get the Royal Hogs in. So what did he do? He's like, all right, I need to bait out that fireball, then get the piggies in. A lot easier said than done. He does just that in back-to-back pushes, and then we saw there, make his opponent overspend, get the units out of cycle that he needs to respond. Electro Wizard and Mega Minion nowhere in sight. Goblin Hut has to come down, and it's a Mega Minion, or excuse me, it's a Mega Knight and a Goblin Hut trying to stop a balloon plus Miner push. No way. Royal Giant out early. Bit of a surprise there from Lygan. Gonna get a little bit of damage in here, but gonna have to deal with a substantial counter push. We'll see if a balloon comes down behind all this. Don't know if I love that Barb Barrel, but still gonna get a little bit of damage in on tower. Does get 2 swings in, the Barbarian along with a Goblin Brawler punch, so ends up being all right, and still up elixir. So Omer finds his first loss today. Lygan finds his first win, but Lygan, life on the line here. One more game going to blue. That'll end our day, and that'll end his run in GameStars League Season 2. So easy option for Omer to get that Goblin Cage down and then start cycling Royal Recruits on the board. And he does just that. There's no immediate pressure from the Royal Giant. Those recruits can just go down in the back, knowing that they'll get there in time. You might take a little bit of damage, but that would be quite the overspend from your opponent in single elixir. Be able to take a couple hundred damage, and then be able to go right back on offense with a strong counter push. So, the correct option there by Lygan to not drop the Royal Giant. Balloon not going to get a damage drop, or not going to get a bomb drop in, but will get death damage. One Brawler punch on the left-hand side. 1675 to 1613. Very even game number 4. As Lygan fights for his life. Fireballs out in both directions on top of opposing Mother Witches. And Goblin Cage out early here are going to go down, so a good opportunity for a Royal Giant to come down in some point in the near future for Lygan, knowing that he will run into, of course, Royal Recruits. Now is the moment. Decides to just continue defending. Fireball going to come out on top of that Mother Witch. Now going to need a little bit more of a response here. Log comes down on the left-hand side, along with a, look at that, beautifully played Fisherman, going to pull that Mother Witch away. A wow comes out from Omer, and a bit of swing of momentum here as a lot of damage comes in, though, on the right-hand side for Lygan. But here we go. Big-time push, left-hand lane. Royal Recruits up high. Will we get a late Goblin Cage to push back? Yes, we do. There it is. Now we get a high Mother Witch as well to get some piggies on the board. Barb Barrel going to target that Mother Witch. Not a lot of damage in. 1277 to 1173. Fireball there. Good value. Royal Giant back down again. Lygan with the relentless pressure here. Going to see a late Goblin Cage, a very late Goblin Cage, as it should come down now, but that is good fireball value. Brawler, though, does get a punch in after one more cannon shot, and we could be going to game number 5. 5:15 remains to 1173. Royal Recruits out. Fireball in on top of the Mother Witch once again. Balloon trying to find a place here. Cage gonna pull towards the Mega Minion. Fireball knocks everything back, resets the Inferno. Balloon not gonna make it to tower. And another nice push coming in here. It feels like this is gonna be all sewn up. Fireball in, late Goblin Cage. There we go. Cage in, Brawler down, Fireball in. That's gonna do it. We're going to game 5. 26 seconds remain, and Omer not able to close things out. Going to a winner-take-all situation here. Both these players now fighting for their lives. Ligon got to come in today, sit back, get essentially a second-round bye as he waited here in the elimination bracket to see who he would face off against, whether it would have been Omer or Game Freak TV. Omer goes perfect on the day so far until he runs into game number 2 here in this set. Ligon playing for his life and now pushing things to a game 5. Really, really well played. An exciting situation to be in, and a great way to close out our day here in the Western European Regional Finals, as we do have one more day of competition here in just the regional finals. We still have our Eastern European finals and, of course, the international group stage. But right now, it's all about these two guys. Ligon playing very, very well. Never getting over aggressive with his Royal Giants. Always making sure to defend adequately. Cycling those Mother Witches in the back and getting the fireballs out of play. And there you saw Omer at the very end getting a bit out of cycle a couple times. Ligon keeping up the pressure, getting Royal Giants down when there weren't Goblin Cages in response. And then Omer had to defend with a Mother Witch plus Goblin Cage, which was great fireball fodder for Ligon, who pulled the trigger on that every single time he could. Getting damage on the Mother Witch, Princess Tower, and that Goblin Cage, making it very, very tough for Omer to defend. Let's go to game number 5. Here we go. Last game of the last match of today. One step closer to finding out who our Western European regional champion is. Gonna walk away with the better part of that $1,000. And of course, that golden ticket to our international group stage, where over $30,000 will be up for grabs. And now Omer goes back to his graveyard deck that he had a lot of success with. A little surprised he pulls the trigger on it this early, but decent amount of damage in and a good elixir position to be in. Just having to deal with this Dark Prince. Has the elixir in hand to do so. Could use Skeletons up high. Decides to go Royal Delivery. That'll do it with just one card. Smarter option. Royal Giant down early on. Tesla going to be here in response. Mega Minion up high. Skeletons to surround. A lot of single target DPS there. Tesla survives with a lot of HP. But we do see some Skeletons populate the board. 4 of them, to be precise. That Mother Witch going to need a response. Instead, Omer just decides to eat the damage, and that is one of the more frustrating things about that card. Omer decides to eat it and go right back on offense. You love to see it, knowing Mother Witch is out of cycle. High Fisherman to pull that Valkyrie away. Dark Prince up low. Get on top of those Skellies. 1730 to 2006. 1 elixir in hand here for Omer, but a lot on the board to deal with. Goes Delivery once again in the right-hand lane. Takes that Fish Boy slap in the left. Royal Giant cycled in the back. Would like to see Omer cycle back around to another Tesla here. He gets his he gets his Musketeer out early for high DPS. There you go, Tesla down early as well. Really important stuff there. Now you got to protect your Musketeer with that Valkyrie. You cycled back around to another Tesla with that Fireball coming in. Skeletons up high. Not even going to need the second Tesla as enough damage came in. And now a late delivery, though. Late delivery allows that Dark Prince to get a good couple swings plus a charge on the right-hand tower. Still, though, 1846, the weaker of Omer's 2 towers. 1730 up in the top right corner. Mega Minion, not going to be a lot to deal with here. Fish Boy played up high. Skeletons there to distract the Fish Boy as the Valkyrie's in. Nice, clean defense there from Omer. This deck has such great control capabilities, and now we'll probably see a Fireball come down on top of that Mother Witch. There it is. Valkyrie going to work towards the tower. Dark Prince has to come out, and I don't believe we'll see another Royal Giant at the moment from Ligon. We do. We go Mega Minion tanking for the Royal Giant here in the opposite lane. Nice plays there. Mega Minion takes just for long enough for that RG to get the Tesla off the board. Fishboy pulls the Valkyrie away. Couple shots in. 1574 to 1730. Final game of the day. Ligan in the lead. In a back and forth battle, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. Omer takes games 1 and 3. Ligan goes games 2 and 4. All tied up here in game number 5. One of these guys going home, the other one going to play for $30,000. Nice body block at the bridge with the Goblin Cage. Graveyard goes into no man's land, essentially. Dark Prince there, gonna get a couple skeletons, swings in. Those Larrys doing some work. Nice RNG there for Omer. Only a minute remains and over 700 HP separating these two. Omer leaking some elixir, trying to go back on offense. Valkyrie back down. High Mother Witch. Fireball gonna go on top of that Mother Witch, but Goblin Brawler untouched. Gonna need a response here. Musketeer low, maybe Skelly's up high. There they go. 1531, 1470. Royal Giant in on the right-hand side. Fishboy in no man's land again. Valkyrie gets to get played up high. Musketeer gonna be met there with a Dark Prince. Nice use of the Royal Recruit, or Royal Delivery, excuse me. It's getting crazy right now. 10:28, 26 seconds remain. Omer needs to get down another graveyard. His opponent goes back on the offensive. Great plays there. Tesla off to the right-hand side. Skeletons to distract. Musketeer gonna be there long enough. RG gonna get a shot in on the tower, and that is going to do it. Not enough time to get another substantial graveyard down. Great body block again. Mother Witch is there. Ligan stays alive and eliminates Omer. Graveyard, the win condition of the day, not able to close things out. Royal Giant takes the cake, sends Omer packing, and both of the German players today saying goodbye. The Spaniard, Ligan, stays alive. And of course, Inthrill from Poland. Really great action here in day 2 of our Western European Regional Finals. We were able to finally go the distance in game number 5 here in our final set of the day. Wow, what a awesome back and forth did these two gentlemen just give us. Such great plays throughout, great deck selection, great patience. But Ligan ultimately ends up taking the cake and moving on. Whew, what a game. Him and Inthrill will be our first matchup of the day tomorrow. Let's take a look at these highlights. Game number 1 goes to Omer by just about 300 HP. Really good plays there from both those guys, but Omer able to edge him out. Then we go game number 2. Omer struggling to get those graveyards down because of the relentless pressure from his opponent with that Electro Giant. Then we go into game number 3. Minor Loon pushes. Great recognition there of Omer, knowing where his opponent was at cycle-wise. As you can see there, Electro Wizard coming down last second. That's after an MK is out of play. That's after a Goblin Hut already had gone to Oblivion. And there you see Royal Giant coming out for Ligan in games 4 and 5. Doing work. Omer just not able to put together the pushes that he would have liked. And that was right after we saw aggressive Royal Giants at the bridge time and time again in Triple Elixir, keeping Omer on the defensive. And that was kind of the name of the game. When you look at these two guys, when you go back and you look at this best of 5, those games that Ligan was able to win, it was all about keeping Omer from pulling the trigger on graveyards, which is, we've said this year after year after year. Sometimes the best defense is offense, and that's exactly what we saw in that great 5-game run. The first 5-game set that we've seen here in the Western European Regional Finals. So there we go. And then there were 4. This is at least a great spot to be in because all 4 of these guys will be making it to our international group stage, but only one of them will walk away with that lion's share of $1,000. Every single one of them, though, still in the running for that $30K. Ligan, Sasa, Saint Belican, and Inthrill. The only one who's been untouched has been Saint Belican from the UK. Former CRL Pro, Cream Royale Betis, and Team Queso, 2 of the squads that he's been a part of, and he's been a name in the space for a very long time. So what a great day today. We saw more Royal Giant. We saw Graveyard come out, but Graveyard struggled today when it was all about the pressure from their opponents. Inthrill did it with Bridge Spam, and we saw Ligan do it there a couple times, once with Royal Giant. And again, twice in that set, his opponent was not able to get those graveyards down. So as we say goodbye to our 4 players eliminated today, Majran, Game Freak, Kike Star, and Omer, we look forward to the future. Tomorrow, we'll be back at the exact same time, 7 p.m. Central European Summer Time, 10 a.m. here on the West Coast. Make sure you subscribe here on the channel, turn on notifications so you know every single time that we go live, and follow GameStars CR on Twitter. I am Andrew Guy, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Keep on clashing.
And we're back. GameStars Clash Royale Season 2 is running full steam, packed with high-octane action, intricate strategy, and mountains of gold. Mix the elixirs and hop on your hog, Chief. Time to find out who will dominate the clans. Subscribe, join our stream, and witness brave heroes fighting in GameStars Clash Royale Season 2. Ride on, piggy!